I'm happy and proud to be standing here years after I first heard the score to celebrate the man who wrote it. I know how to make movies. I went to film school. I have a knack for it. I studied it very well and practiced, and I know what you're doing. Whatever you do, don't do those artsy abstract movies. I dare you to do a comedy, I said, for God's sakes. At 81, George Lucas finally broke his decade-long silence. The legendary creator of Star Wars revealed a story few knew, a story of near-death, secret betrayals, and choices that shaped Hollywood forever. Lucas has often said, group of ideas and characters and books and all kinds of things. We could go on making Star Wars for the next 100 years. But the journey to that galaxy far, far away was anything but easy. In 1962, a devastating car crash nearly took his life. Doctors warned he might not survive. Yet during the 4 months he spent recovering, the ideas that would revolutionize cinema were quietly taking root. And now, after years of silence, Lucas is sharing the untold story. The betrayals that almost destroyed him, the secrets he kept, even from his own actors, and the shocking decisions that cost him billions. What he's revealing will make you see Star Wars in a completely new light. George Walton Lucas Jr. was born on May 14, 1944, in Modesto, California. His father owned a stationery store and ran a small walnut farm, while his mother struggled with chronic health problems, often in and out of hospitals, leaving the home quiet and lonely. Raised in a strict Methodist household, George was expected to follow in his father's footsteps, taking over the family business one day. But from early on, George was different. In July 1955, when Disneyland first opened, the Lucas family made a trip to Anaheim. For young George, it was transformative. The rides, the storytelling, the sense of fantasy. It awakened something inside him that would never settle. Around the same time, he became obsessed with science fiction. Shows like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, comic books and adventure novels like Robinson Crusoe and Treasure Island consumed him. Flash Gordon in particular became his lifelong muse. He watched it religiously after school, sketching spaceships and imagining strange worlds. Years later, when he tried to make a Flash Gordon movie but couldn't secure the rights, that childhood obsession would evolve into something entirely original. Star Wars growing up wasn't easy. At Thomas Downey High School, George was small, shy, and introverted, standing just 57. As an adult, he was often bullied, and he felt invisible. Books, model cars, and old movie reels became his refuge. But photography class changed everything. Behind the camera, George found his voice. Teachers noticed his eye for composition and storytelling. These early experiences shaped the way he thought about characters. He empathized with outsiders, underdogs, and those who didn't fit in. Academically, George was average at best, with mostly C's. But he had passions: cars and cameras. He spent hours after school tinkering with a small Italian car, an Auto Bianina, racing it locally while filming with his family's 8mm camera. To his parents, it seemed like a distraction, but it was the foundation of his future. Everything changed on June 12, 1962, just 3 days before his high school graduation. While driving his modified Bianchina home, George was hit by a classmate, Frank Ferrer, driving a Chevrolet Impala. The small car flipped multiple times before crashing into a walnut tree. George's seatbelt snapped, throwing him free moments before the car crumpled. Paramedics found him unconscious with no heartbeat. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Crushed lungs, broken ribs, vomiting blood, and skin turning blue. For 2 weeks, he hovered on the brink of death. Doctors doubted he would survive. The crash left an indelible mark. George later said it made him realize how fragile life is. During the 4 months of recovery, unable to race cars or pursue physical activities, he buried himself in books, mythology, philosophy, and anthropology. A poor student before he became a deeply curious young man, he reflected on life, purpose, and destiny. Themes that would later define Star Wars. He also struggled with survivor's guilt, asking why he had lived while others had not. Once recovered, George enrolled in Modesto Junior College, studying psychology and philosophy. He discovered film and photography, meeting cinematographer Haskell Wexler, who encouraged him to apply to USC's School of Cinematic Arts. In 1965, George transferred to USC, completing 2 years of coursework in just 1 year at age 21. There, he befriended fellow students Walter Murch, John Milius, and Caleb DeSalle, later nicknamed the Dirty Dozen. 2 professors left lasting marks: Lester Novos, who taught color, light, and movement, and Slavo Vorkapich, who showed him how montage could manipulate time and emotion. These lessons would shape Lucas's cinematic style. In 1967, he created a short film, Electronic Labyrinth, THX 11384EB, a 15-minute dystopian piece about a man escaping a surveillance state. He innovatively used a Navy class as cast and crew, filming at LAX and UCLA at night, earning a scholarship and a 6-month Warner Brothers internship. The Library of Congress later preserved it in the National Film Registry. Lucas's early career was grueling. He often spent 18 hours a day editing film, experimenting late into the night. He formed the Clean Cut Cinema Club and co-founded Sunrise Productions. Some projects, like the unfinished 543, were odd, ahead of their time, and expected touring. This period, he also became close to Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese. A brush with the Vietnam War indirectly shaped his worldview. Drafted at 23, he was medically disqualified due to type 2 diabetes and prior lung injuries. This experience fueled his skepticism toward governance, later reflected in THX 1138 and Star Wars. Before Star Wars, Lucas almost lost everything with TX 1138, made for $777,000. It earned just $2 million, forcing him to return his advance and teaching him a painful lesson. If he wanted to survive in Hollywood, he needed to make films audiences wanted to. Seed American Graffiti, made for $775,000, changed everything. The 1973 film earned $15 million, a 15,000% return, and launched his freedom as a filmmaker. With success came the chance to dream bigger. Star Wars. Lucas's early drafts were unpolished, borrowing heavily from other works. For 3 years, he rewrote, refined, and studied Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces, transforming his shame into a timeless story. In 1975, 20th Century Fox gave him the green light. Skeptical, they agreed to a lower salary in exchange for all sequel and merchandising rights that would eventually be worth billions. Filming Star Wars was nightmarish. Tunisia's desert brought rain after 50 years. Crew members fell ill, and props failed. ILM delivered only a handful of usable effects. Lucas worked tirelessly, cutting scenes himself, editing weekends, and even experiencing chest pain from stress at 28. Yet the film grossed $775 million and changed cinema forever. He kept secrets to preserve the story, including Darth Vader's identity, known only to him and Mark Hamill. The sequel, Empire Strikes Back, was financed with an $18 million loan from Lucas himself. Fires destroyed sets, delays mounted, and his partnership with producer Gary Kurtz ended in bitter conflict. With his newfound wealth, Lucas built Skywalker's Ranch on 4,100 acres, a personal sanctuary with theaters, lakes, and vineyards, but also a place of isolation. Collaborations with Spielberg produced Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the duo pushed practical effects to extremes, sometimes risking safety. Lucas's personal life was turbulent. His 1983 divorce from Marcia, an Oscar-winning editor and key creative partner, cost him $3,550 million, and half his fortune. Financial pressures forced him to spin off a small computer graphics team, later purchased by Steve Jobs as Pixar, a company that would eventually become a global powerhouse. The prequel, 1999 to 2005, brought new challenges. Lucas directed for the first time in 16 years using groundbreaking digital cameras and thousands of effect shots. Fan backlash, including death threats and massive online petitions, plagued him. He became isolated, struggling with insomnia and depression, working 14-hour days and rewriting scenes extensively. Despite the challenges, Lucas built a lasting legacy. In 2012, at 67, he sold Lucasfilm to Disney for $4.25 billion, stepping back as a creative consultant. He later revealed frustration at Disney's approach to sequels, feeling his ideas were ignored. In 2025, at 81, Lucas made his first comic appearance, not for Star Wars, but to showcase his passion project, the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, opening in Los Angeles in 2026, housing over $1 billion in art. The 300,000-square-foot museum will feature theaters, galleries, and works by artists like Norman Rockwell. Lucas calls it a temple to the people's art, a lifetime dedicated, not to money, but to emotion, storytelling, and imagination.